What is up, measly crew, and welcome to volume 42 of the One Piece Virgin's Egghead Book Club podcast. That's right, it's 42. Some say it's the meaning of everything, others say it is death itself. What is the difference, folks? Covering chapters 400 to 409 of One Piece, I am your captain of this measly crew, Mumkey D. Jones, joined as always by my co-captain, your vice-captain, that's right, it's Aggie V. Rodriguez.
Right, all I'm going to tell you is do not make me activate 3 Rumble balls. How conspicuous that it would be the Rumble.com ball after a lot of activations that would make somebody become a complete monster. You might say almost in some drunken with power state.
What a top of mind to have in what is the Straw Hat's darkest moments here at Ennie's lobby. I mean, so far, and who knows how much darker it'll get after a certain golden transponder snail accidentally might have gotten pressed. But yeah, we see a lot of the Straw Hats reach their lowest points, and Chopper, he's so desperate to not be killed and to help his friends, he does have a little flashback, and we see the ultimate waifu, once again, Dr. Kuriha, and she's pissed. Chopper, how dare you? Your experiments went too far. You destroyed a whole village of people. Whoa, Aggie, where was this warning when we were on Drum Island? Hey, look, Chopper might become a Yeti man monster who loses his mind and attacks his allies, just to be clear.
I don't think we had any inclination at any point here up till now, and I mean, it could have. I mean, you know, maybe
would have been nice to know.
It's just like all the ladies in the audience. I'm sure there's millions, and sometimes you give the nice guy a chance. He said, "Oh, you know what?" And then it turns out maybe he's not as nice as he thought he was. You know, you give when Chopper was having his issues with the rest of the reindeer, he's like, "Oh, I just don't know why. Well, the reindeers don't like me. It must be because I wasn't born Rain Chad." And then all of a sudden he transforms into a monster and does monstrous things. Maybe the other reindeer did nothing wrong.
Well, and then you have Virgin Chopper going up against, what's his name, Kumadori, Chad Kumadori, who has full control over every part of his body. I mean, the ladies are going to love that. How is Virgin Chopper supposed to compete? Of course he's going to become an incel monster.
I mean, and frankly, had to honestly. Although yes, the Giga Chopper is going to be my top of mind. I think there's a lot to say in this volume, but I think that is going to be my top of mind. A close second, though, maybe kind of related to his the last bit of combat that we see him doing in the volume, is Kumadori. He could do finger pistol with every fucking follicle of hair on his head. You gonna tell me this is not? I mean, maybe a slight oversight here. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot going on. But when I saw
where was that sentence going? I need to know.
I mean, how is he not, like, finger pistol is fucking lethal, and he has like a million. Like, it's a big thing about him. He's very virile, so he's got all this hair and it's all long, and it's. Once I saw those fucking hair follicles going like this, I was like, dude. How is that not the most overpowered shit? I'm just saying, like...
Well, it does help that...
He literally fucking, like... He could fucking finger pistol, like, every fucking square foot of the entire island. He's got enough hair for it. If it's able to shoot out like this, maybe he's got some limiting on the range there. But still, like...
Well, we do have his power level, so his finger pistol's nowhere near as strong as, like, Lucci's. You know? Like, his finger pistol... hair into Chopper doesn't even kill him, and he got struck by probably a dozen of those.
That's fair. Historically speaking, you know, back if you know, I was an SMG user versus a rifle user. So I have, historically speaking, been, when it comes to applying fighting, combat, things like that, in a fantastic sense, not really in real life because I've never been a very good fighter there, but I've been more about volume of application versus, like, you know, strong, precise shots. So just when I saw that, I felt like, you know, everything I led up to him, the life regen or life regain or whatever, that was a pretty cool technique also, but that just seemed to be like an immense power spike. I guess maybe, you know, it's not particularly damaging, but it seemed like a lot.
But it very much needed to be, this guy overwhelms Nami completely, and now he's overwhelming Chopper. He's defeating Chopper so handedly that Chopper uses his Rumble Ball off screen, which I don't know if the anime, they probably showed the full usage of it, but in the manga, Chopper has a thought bubble. Man, I already wasted my Rumble Ball, and this guy's still obliterating me. We're fucked. I'm fucked. So you need to feel his desperation in that, oh yeah, he's realistically going to die. He needs to go for losing myself, the nuclear option. And I believe it. Like, this is what it takes to push Chopper to that level. And now we all might be fucked. Frankie got obliterated already, and now Chopper's climbing on up to everybody else. What do you make of this, Aggie? The whole monster Chopper.
Well, another thing that I found interesting was that early on in the volume we have, Kaku, we get to see his devil power unveiled, and so he has another zone type fruit, which is the giraffe form, or giraffe version, variant, I think is what they call it, right? I think it's giraffe variant is what I'm looking for, which originally is completely ridiculous. Like, what's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my entire life? But this is the majesty of Oda, okay? You can see something so completely ridiculous and nonsensical, and he's going to know exactly how to make this work, and he does, because just like how Chopper has forms, Kaku in his zone type giraffe variant has forms. So we are introduced to him in the animalistic form, and then his humanoid form kind of reminded me of that rapper that went viral for about like a week until nobody cared anymore, Damn Wide Neck, because he was like the combination of Damn Wide Neck and Damn Long Neck, but his clavicle and the squareness that's retained reminded me of Wide Neck. Anyway, then thankfully through Zoro's communication, we get this relegated information that kind of ties all together. Like, oh, it's centrifugal. He's still heavy set in the torso, but he's able to leverage his neck as this spiral, attack. It's stronger and cuts deeper than the average Tempest kick.
It cuts the whole Tower of Law. Like,
yes, I say that to say, relatively early in the volume, he uses this neck storm attack, which cuts through the Tower of Law, and I'm thinking we could see the top half beginning to slide. I'm thinking, okay, that thing's about to be like falling into the waterfall. It's going to go crazy. No, it stays in this position with this like slight, it's a full cut, but like this slight offsetedness throughout towards the conclusion of the volume. So once Chopper is unleashed and fully unhinged, fully in his monster form is what it's implied to be. And also we get this sort of diagram that shows him to be like scaling the tower. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking like...
he's going King Kong mode on him right now.
Yeah. That makes me more concerned since the fact that the offsetted slice tower didn't just topple immediately, now having a monstrous King Kong chopper creature monster scaling it, that makes me feel like there's possibly more of a likelihood that it's about to go be it's not so foreign to us at that point, because we do also have Frankie and Fukuro doing combat where the falls play a role in their combat as well. So it's like we're not so far removed from the falls as being an imminent danger. So that was kind of a concern I had as we came to the ending of the volume here. But
maybe it'll slide right off in volume 43. Anything else about Monster Chopper for your top of mind before we get into mine? Which mine might be too many things, but fuck it, we ball.
That's right. I also will just say it's not really to do with Chopper necessarily, but the whole concept of like the each member of CP9 having a key. I like that. Kind of reminded me of like a Yu Yu Hakusho or like a Dragon Ball Z kind of element. Something that those are just franchises and properties I'm familiar with, but something about the chambered combat. We had in Alabasta before. where we had each of our Straw Hat people having their combat with the different Baroque Works members. But in the Tower of Law, to have it like this chambered combat with certain advantages and disadvantages, and then having them each have like a numbered key assigned to their person kind of gave me like sort of this almost like dungeon-esque energy that I enjoyed. But I will let you now take it away.
Well, yeah, it almost feels like Oda's using video game logic, but really it's the smartest tactic that CP9 could use if the whole thing is we need to stall the pirates so that Robin is taken through the gates of justice. And Nami has this great idea of, well, fuck it. Why don't we just go save Robin anyway and get the keys later? And Fukuro says, yeah, if you do that, we'll throw the keys over the waterfall. So they have no choice. Like, they have to be distracted and waste time fighting all of CP9. Thankfully, Luffy's not going to fall for that shit, and he runs straight ahead to catch up anyway. Anything else from that before my top of mind, Aggie?
Well, I would also like to think, let's say, in a hypothetical where maybe these were all bunk keys or something would happen to where they break a key or something like that. I think I could see a resolution in the future, like, Robin, her power is very strong and has a lot of applications, but if we needed to have everybody else be okay, we're able to rescue her with the cuff still. Maybe there would be another destination along the Grand Line in the near future that might have, like, we had the Galley Law shipwrights. Maybe we'd have the Locky Law locksmiths that could, forge something using the negative space in the lock mechanism or some whatever.
So maybe even with the guarantee that the handcuff key is thrown overboard, maybe still better to prioritize saving Robin from certain torture and death. Yeah, maybe the plan's not that great. Maybe they shouldn't have fallen for this, but we'll see if it all works out anyway.
I was like, there's one very last thing. As they're leading Robin, I like how the midway point in their path is the Bridge of Hesitation. Like, what the hell kind of name is that?
Yeah. Good question.
All right, but that's all I've got for that.
Okay, what I like about Volume 42 here in Enies Lobby, like I hinted earlier, is we see pretty much every Straw Hat main character at their lowest point, because a lot of these early matchups are not good matchups, and every Straw Hat has their own weaknesses, and these weaknesses are somewhat exploited and highlighted in this volume. And I think the beautiful message here is, yeah, in life, there's going to be a lot of things that you just simply cannot handle because you can't do everything. But that's why it's good to have friends who have your back, who can handle those things for you, and you can take care of the things that they can't do. And we get a lot of, Nami against Kumadori. She's outmatched. A guy with better hair than even her. I mean, how can she compete? That's one of her most beautiful attributes. We've got Sanji up against a woman, Khalifa, and she's not even fighting him at first. He just gets distracted and just drinks 3 cups of tea while Robin is being pushed down the stairs. Low point for Sanji, and then he gets all washed up with the bubble soap fruit obliterated. Usopp, master marksman sniper, fucking misses his shot because he's distracted by the absurd draft, and then ends up handcuffed to Zoro. This is the biggest L, perhaps for both of them, of the entire series, and Zoro was defeated by Mihawk and left for dead, pretty much. Like, how did they get handcuffed together? Complete retardation.
Usopp, he's been a little iffy over this entire. I'm still gonna include it in the Water 7 arc for just the original Luffy view, Usopp, the argument, the fight, and everything like that. It did hurt a little bit because we had him on such strong ground, getting the Giants on board and everything like that. Like, he really was in like a full redemption arc. And I don't know if I'm not trying to put too much on him here, but Zoro says, essentially the Usopp first, he messes up there, and then due to his sort of not being prepared for the Tempest strike that could have killed him, Zoro basically charges him to help save him, and then ends up getting in the handcuffs in that way, or getting them handcuffed together that way. So it's kind of like, even though Zoro did fall into that. It was kind of predicated on Usopp not being as aware or as prepared as he should have been. So I kind of read it more as a double Usopp L.
Yeah, it's mostly Usopp, but
yeah,
kind of an L for Zoro to be stuck in a wacky situation where he has to run away from his enemies instead of fight them. Like, could even one-handed Zoro with one sword in his mouth and one here and Usopp hiding behind his back, surely he could put up somewhat of a fight, but I guess it's 2 CP9 top tiers, so they'd probably just get killed. I'm surprised they could run away so long with Usopp just being a normal guy. Like, can he outrun a wolf, man? I doubt it. They're using, like, shave and shit.
Yes, that's true for sure, and they should have Moonwalk. I was surprised that Jabra was zone type. I didn't really have any... It caught me completely off guard. And although his design of his character is kind of a top-heavy, like, kind of cartoonish, like, strongman wolf versus, like, a sleek, slender, agile wolf, I would imagine that if he went, like, in the same way that we see Kaku doing his base animal form and humanoid form, he could probably go from a humanoid to a base animal zone-type form and then catch up with him that way if he was so inclined.
Yeah, I'm sure those gnarly teeth would sink into Usopp pretty good. And again, on my top of mind theme of Straw Hats hitting their lowest low, what do we know about Usopp when we meet him? He's the boy who cried wolf. Of course, he's going to have to go face to face with Wolfman Jabra, who may or may not be pretending to sleep. We really don't know. It's an obvious trap to me to have the key just laying in front of you while you're taking a nap. And goddamn, what was it, a chicken who like chirped like a bird? And that's not what woke up Jabra. It was Usopp reacting to it that did. So really, the loudmouth who cries wolf has to face the Wolfman, and he's outmatched and gets fucking punched flying into the wall. Low point for Usopp, and that's even before he fucks up sniping. Robin, biggest fear in the world is the Buster Call being activated. Well, what happens in this volume? Low point for her. Luffy, biggest weakness, cannot swim. Literally drowning to death in this volume. If not for Chimney and Ganbei showing up, thank God that girl, little kid, snuck aboard the Rocket Man, because otherwise Luffy literally dies trying to paddle across the rough waters to the Bridge of Hesitation. Insanity. Every Straw Hat is on the brink of death here, Iggy.
Yeah. We've seen Luffy push to his limits before, but that particular panel of him like drowning is extremely visceral, I have to say, especially considering that it's played by this immediate follow-up where it's very light, maybe a little bit comedic, where we have the girl and our favorite cat rabbit kind of say, oh, we heard him screaming from this underground passage, so maybe go down there. Really quite the contrast. And then this is kind of I don't know, I mean, it's not top of mind, but just for him to be made aware of this world government passage that is sealed off nonchalantly, just like, there's so much going on here that's like his visceral drowning death that's, I never mind, we're good, just immediately played off. And all of a sudden we go right into Gear 3. Like, what the hell? We just had Gear 2 was like, Gear 2 versus Luna was like, really, there was a lot there, and all of a sudden, like, just Gear 3, just all one panel, he's just standing right there, just speaks his piece, and turns into Chibi for some reason. I don't know what's up with that exactly. Maybe that's his Gear 3 form. I'm not sure if I'm fully educated on that yet, because...
Well, let's break down what we know, Iggy. When he was fighting Bluno, and Bluno seemed to not be going down, we saw Luffy biting on his thumb, about to activate what we can now assume was Gear 3, but then Bluno collapsed, so he didn't have to use it. Here, Gear 3, again, he bites his thumb. We see a giant steel door obliterated. And then, Luffy is shrunk down to little kid size, but after running for about 5 minutes, he's back to normal size. And will Oda incorporate his usual pseudoscience-based sort of in real-world science to make all of this make sense? Like with Gear 2 that we tried to explain? Now, we don't know the mystery of Gear 3, but as the Virgin Eggy, let's see you put all these pieces together and see what kind of crazy puzzle you form.
Well, I'll just say, based off of what we've seen here in this volume, I didn't really get this from Gear 2. Maybe if I went back and paged back over Gear 2 again, but Gear 3, All right, there's a great deal of energy and strength gained, which then seems to result in a reverting to a child form. I guess I don't know. The way I read it was kind of like that it was like a chibi transformation, but let's just say, because I think this is where I'm going to lead with this theory, that it was a reversion to a younger form, perhaps. I would like to think that maybe this gear stuff has to do with life energy, because that's kind of also a theme here in this volume with Kumadori and his power, where he eats and like digests and gains some life energy. Maybe it's like a gathering of sort of chi, I guess is probably the most typical way to understand it, that then gives you this super increase in power for a certain amount of time, and then maybe that's part of the come down, is that you get reverted to like a younger, weaker form that then needs a certain amount of time to like regenerate. Because I mean, we know he's also got the gum gum fruit, so it's not so unusual for his form to be a little atypical anyway. We have things like gum gum balloon and the just inflating and stretching and et cetera, et cetera. So it wouldn't be like so, I think, out of the question for him to kind of like be compressed and then sort of like reincorporate into his normal, regular, full form.
Yeah, we're not by any means scientists studying the properties of rubber, but is there instances where rubber shrinks down and changes size after like some sort of force, or I don't know?
All I know is I watched this episode of Seinfeld where George Costanza goes to a cold shower or something and things are growing and shrinking or whatever, and I think it's a similar, maybe there's some similarities there, so it's not what I'm going to apply to Luffy here, but I think rubber, I think it can expand and contract.
So what is the final verdict? What exactly is Luffy doing that breaks the steel door?
Well, I like to think, it's just a sort of power up, a concentration of power, and that it could just be levied, maybe even just a push through with his. Is it a
physical
power
thing, or is it like a Kamehameha chi power sort of thing?
I am going to say at this time, I think it's a physical thing, because I think it trails with, or tracks rather, with Gear 2, that it was sort of an energy enhancement to his physical abilities, and I think that's what he was able to use to break through the door. And then, we get like the cool down period, so to speak, with his shrinkage, and then he's back to normal. So that's how I'm reading it right now.
Okay, Eggy, we have 3 new members of the measly crew who need designations on the ship, starting with Mr. IRTP.
Well, when I think of TP, I'm thinking of toilet paper. All right.
Unfortunately.
Well, see, now I think we are powering up as a crew. See, I think we could afford some new amenities. And I think maybe we need somebody who's got the business dealings with paper processors. This is back in the day. They're having to etch things into poneglyphs. Maybe papyrus is. So I'm thinking a connection to lumber, processed paper goods. Maybe it could even be extrapolated to a calligraphist.
Okay.
If that's a word.
So if we need to write letters to other pirate crews, he can write them up for us and make it all fancy.
Yeah, that's how my train of thought just went there. So yes, you're our guy, whatever title that is. I want to say calligraphist. I don't know if that's a word, but I hope you get what I'm getting at.
What about new member Scarab? And his profile picture is a drawing of a dog with the same mustache as Whitebeard the pirate from One Piece.
When I think Scarab, first off, I'm thinking of like a jeweled scarab. I mean, obviously there's the insect component there as well, but we don't want to bring that around us. I'm thinking Egyptian. I'm thinking...
Hey, Luffy loves giant bugs. He says that giant insects are as valuable as the One Piece. He said that to Chopper.
Well, I'm not sure what the term is for, but an insect expert would probably be good, because in the same way that we had the South Bird, we had to know what the South Bird was all about. Mm-hmm. It's not an insect, it's a bird, but maybe somebody who has a similar understanding of Grand Line insects and arthropods, things of that nature.
This guy ate an insect devil fruit, and he can talk to all bugs. And transform into a scarab Man. Why not? We don't have enough fruit users on the crew.
He's going to have to be Grand Line ready either way, so I think that tracks for me.
And the last one is Tim Anzalone.
Tim Anzalone. Let's see here. Okay, he's it sounds like a chocolatier to me. Somebody who knows. I know my mind does go to food a lot, so maybe we could, instead of needing to go right to confectionery, maybe somebody who's smart with plants. Do we have like a good plant botanist yet? I think we might, but I'm not sure.
They could probably use an assistant.
I'm thinking botany, alchemy, culinary. I think he's a trifecta. He's got a little bit of all that. I'm feeling it.
So what's his title then? Just all of them?
I'm gonna say alchemist, because the conversion really of the cocoa plant into milk chocolate is like, I think at this point in the relative history period would be considered alchemy. And I know we don't have an alchemist. I'm feeling alchemy on Tim.
Aggie, let's review an absolutely shocking series of events in the cover story that really got my heart crying in despair for many characters. I mean, Crocodile and Mr. One, we get some levels of depth, perhaps unforeseen in any other cover story. So the women of the Baroque Works, they break out of their cell and they're inviting Mr. One and Crocodile, hey, let's escape too. But they don't want to go. Crocodile's just not in the mood to leave, and Mr. One, I guess he's loyal to his Mr. Zero. What do you make of this, Aggie? Crocodile has a chance to escape prison and decides to stay.
Well, I would read it as sometimes as a prisoner inside of a penitentiary, you might have a grand sentence. Let's say, I presume Crocodile is doing life in prison. He's probably racked up too many things. Let's just say that, okay? Just because you're in prison and you are having a life sentence, things could still get worse for you in there, or they could still be better. I would like to think in his mind, he is not against escaping, but I think it would need to be under a certain set of circumstances in his mind. He wants to go for the sure, calculated thing. Maybe blowing up the side of the prison is not the calculated escape. I'm thinking he might want to exert an inside influence, like perhaps a gang member of a sort, to where the way that he's going to end up getting out of that prison is going to be walking through the front doors with his loyal compatriots, and they're saying, oh yeah, we realize now you were the true leader, you were right, and now we are going to go, and we have the wherewithal, we have our installations throughout. It could be Alabasta, it could be any kingdom or whatever they want to go, wherever they want to go to. Now we can go and fulfill your original desires without you being like this on the run, blowing up prisons, bandit guy that's always going to always have to be looking over his shoulder.
Let's talk about that, Aggie. Because, I mean, I'm glad you bring that up. It's true desires. We find it out because Miss Golden Week uses some crazy rainbow in the sky ability, colored trap rainbow colored dreams, where everybody within the proximity, like their clothes transform seemingly into, if their wildest dream has come true, like Lasso, the gun dog, has become like a full tank. He's a tank dog now. And we see the other Baroque Works, he's like, oh, Mr. 4 is a pizza guy now, that kind of stuff. We see Crocodile and Mr. 1, and this is the heartbreaking thing. Crocodile becomes the Pirate King. Eggy, this is his goal. His ambition was crushed by Luffy. He wanted to be the Pirate King himself. So the idea of he wants to get out the good old-fashioned way and not look over his shoulder, no, he wants to be Pirate King. But he chooses to stay in prison, in pirate prison, because Luffy beat the shit out of him. His excuse for not leaving is, I'm not in the mood, I don't feel like it. I think he's depressed that his dreams are dead, because this Straw Hat Kid beat him up, and he's so depressed and thinks he can't do it that he literally does not want to leave. And the fact that Mr. One dreams of being a superhero, but due to the circumstances of his life is just the henchman for a mob boss, and now he's gonna be trapped in prison too. Just that one panel of their unachievable dreams made me very sad, and they're so defeated about it.
Yeah, I guess that's well, it definitely tracks with the captioning and the imagery as you mentioned there. And yeah, I suppose if the Straw Hats are out running wild, and they're out, I mean, especially now, they've never been running wilder than ever to have essentially, gone up against the entire world government of so many different nations all at once and burning their flag right in front of everybody's eyes. I mean, yeah, like Crocodile does not have the foundation right now to try and outdo that. But then again, I mean, if this cover story ends up tying back into the canon events that are ongoing, I mean, such a brash thing for the Straw Hats to have done, maybe that could even install an opportunity for Crocodile to get back on his feet. So not exactly as the way that I was thinking before, where I'm thinking like, on some gang leader, like Rico conspiracy type of thing, but maybe it's just, oh, hey, well, he did pretty good last time. Let's get him out. He knows the Straw Hats. He's done combat with them before. And now they're waging what appears to be a war on the entire world. So maybe we could get him out and maybe that would also present a possible lane for Crocodile to try and, defeat the Straw Hats. And maybe one day he could make himself a Pirate King under those circumstances. And maybe that could get him back in the game, get him a little more drive and motivation to want to do some things like that. That could be beneficial to also multiple parties besides himself.
So we're predicting a Crocodile's depression is cured arc in the future, hopefully.
Well, I mean, he was kind of, I like the Straw Hats more than I like him, but, as a man...
Hey, we gave him S tier. Spoiler alert.
As a man whose dreams have died many, many times, it's hard to not have a soft spot to want to just get him back in the game, like, hey, just give him another fighting chance, and maybe he could do something crazy. Maybe it doesn't necessarily have to kill the Straw Hats, but I guess eventually he would have to if he wants to be the Pirate King. Maybe he could just, take him on as his own.
And the cover stories here end with, it looks like all the escaped Baroque Works are reuniting at the bar in the Alabastan Desert. Is that correct? Was that the same one? Or was it just a random abandoned place? Did they really all go back specifically to Alabasta?
Well, I believed it to be. I did look, as I saw that cover story without even finishing the volume and reading through chapter 409. I went to go consult the Alabastan map, which I don't have now, but one second here. I looked at it at that time when I was reading it, but I think there was... I don't know if I remember this one necessarily being in Nanohana, but maybe this could be the Spiders Cafe that's off to the side, off the coast there, and maybe that would be where they're not re-entering from Nanohana. Maybe that would be the part they'd re-enter. But anyway, yeah, also without going back to look into the Alabasta saga, I did immediately suspect it to be Alabasta just based on the desert environment around it.
Well,
maybe that would make sense.
Maybe now that we've seen all of their true dreams are to just have normal jobs and not be pirates or bounty hunters, maybe they'll just run the bar as a normal bar, and the people of Alabasta can have a place to get some hookers.
It would track with some of the other cover story arcs that are
starting a business, yeah. Well, Aggie, we covered the cover story. Should we get into the volume chronologically, starting with the mighty chapter 400 that you were teased with last volume? What'd you make of chapter 400?
Well, I guess, to be honest, them making a point of Robin's handcuffs being sea prism stones, I kind of feel like I'm sure she'd be a lot more formidable with her powers, but she kind of resolved herself to, just going along with the plans of CP9 so that, and as long as everything else is going to be okay. Obviously, the Straw Hats, yeah, they did come into Ennie's lobby then, and they're going to provoke this combat. So, yeah, it's
You got a problem with the Sea Prism cuffs?
Well, I don't know, how do I put it? It's like they were there the whole time. I don't know. What's I'm trying to pinpoint how it's not sitting so well with me. Because it's like,
I mean, she was resigned to her fate to begin with, but now
Yeah.
she's had the change of heart, but she's still
she wants to
handcuffed, so
live.
it's not like she can just join them.
I suppose that's, yeah, I guess taking the weight of the last volume into consideration, yeah, I suppose that
Because if she was not handcuffed, I mean, Robin, she can make a vine out of her own arms and just kind of probably just jump off the ledge and swing over to them. So why would they not have a fruit user locked up in those? My question is, how did Frankie fucking just fart blast his way out of custody so easily? That seemed, But anyway, yeah, the Rocket Man train crashes through the Tower of Law, and now all of our heroes are inside floor 1, and Fukuro is up on the wall and says, hey, welcome to the video game, here's the rules.
It was definitely very aptly titled. Let me see, was it the key to freedom? So I mean, really gets you right in from the very beginning, because looking at that title before I even get into reading the chapter, it's like, there's a lot of keys to freedom here that might be I'm not thinking of it as a physical key. And honestly, to be honest, all I'm saying is we have not yet, not to get too far ahead here because we're going chronologically, but we haven't seen these keys open any of these handcuffs yet.
It might all be a trick.
Yeah, so I'm definitely, these are the ultimate government assassins. These are the 6 power bodies. They have all these abilities and techniques, and really show their own. I know I had said previously in the arc that maybe the ones that were remaining in Ennie's lobby might not have been up to snuff for the ones that were on the Galley Law mission, but I think that those rumors or thoughts were certainly dispelled by the abilities shown here as the combat comes up. In chapter 400 is really, it's a foundational chapter here. We really get all of the first bits of the 1v1 combat set up, which I think I like how that was put together throughout the volume. Like it's not at all jilted to me. I kind of could really, we have such interlinking of the fights also as the volume goes along, that I think that it was the right way to get the volume started, is to have these establishing shots, so to speak, of all the combat that is to come.
We have what I think is a half-accurate Aggie prediction, if we're keeping track of these, because we kept asking Aggie, what is Kaku's devil fruit that he's so ashamed of? And Aggie's thinking, well, he's got the long nose. Could it be the elephant fruit? Very next chapter, it's revealed, no, actually, the elephant fruit was eaten by Funkfried the Sword. Spandam's sword, much like Lasso the gun in this volume, ate a devil fruit somehow, and did we see the elephant of it in this volume at all, or did he just talk about it?
I think the sword has like a tusk hilt. Is
Yeah.
how it's. So it's kind of interesting. But I'll take it. I like Funkfried in his own way, and if there was a Funkfried sword as like an unlockable weapon in like a fighting game with like for a swordsman, that would probably be my favorite sword in the game. Shout out to all of Zoro's, very sentimental weapons, but if he had an elephant sword that had tusks on it, that might be super badass, I'm just saying.
So as somebody who in chapter 399 predicted, I think I'll see the elephant fruit next volume, even though you got the character wrong, Aggie, do we still give you half a point for a correct prediction?
I'll take that, and I think that, the long neck, the transformation would not really imply that, because I think all that we get for our visual of Kaku's devil fruit transformation is just like a stretch, like in text, while Zoro looks horrified, like what the fuck is this? So it's probably not anything to do with the size of his nose, but there's still a long appendage there, being the neck. I think that it's got to count for something.
Well, speaking of Aggie predictions, unfortunately, it seems one might have been wrong. We were really hopeful that Zoro versus Lucci would come true, but like you've been saying, Zoro walks in at the very end of chapter 400 to find Kaku chilling out, and Kaku says, hey, I'm the best swordsman at CP9. Is this completely out of nowhere? Did we have any clue that Kaku had an affinity for swords before this?
I certainly do not recall.
Yeah. And Zoro, he uses 3-sword style. That gives him the advantage. But Kaku pulls out 2 and says, well, you might think it's 2. I'm actually a 4-sword style user because my legs, these super kicks, count as blades as well. So now it's like 4 swords against 3 here. Plus, he becomes a big giraffe man.
Even though that it's not to do with the devil fruit, or he even has the zone devil fruit power, but it has nothing to do with his zone type power. I think my thought process before was with Lucci, that him being like the leopard type or the panther type or whatever, and having those sharp claw strikes might be considered like a sword, a slashing style, combat style. So even though that was not, it didn't come together with Lucci like I thought it would, but then I don't feel like we had any idea that Kaku was going to be a swordsman, but the slashing combat style still comes through. And then even, I would say, with his zone transformation and like his use of his neck is like a leveraging for this slicing attack. Maybe that's another half, kind of, and maybe it comes together for a whole between.
Oh, wow. Somehow Zoro fights Lucci, being completely wrong leads to Eggy getting half a point, I guess. You know what?
Well, it was because I felt that he was going to do combat with somebody who had a slashing combat style, and he still does.
Yep, that's fair.
Yeah, and I don't think Kaku gave us enough to work with that I could, because if I saw anything with blades and Kaku, he would have been my pick for sure, but I'm thinking claws for slashing, okay? That's all. I'm just saying. Okay, so like the slashing combat style was there. That was really my prediction. It's just who's going to have it.
Here's a question, Aggie. Is Oda a hack, or is this foreshadowing? Okay, 2 volumes ago, we have Nami and Chopper about to be eliminated by enemies, but Zoro smashes through the ceiling of the room he's in to save them. And then here, we have Wolfman Jabra about to kill Usopp. He says, I'm gonna tear out your windpipe. Like, you are dead. And who smashes through the ceiling but Zoro and Kaku? Which I'm glad that this happened because it becomes a 2v2 fight. And just because of their long noses, I desperately wanted Kaku versus Usopp. And I think this technically counts. I mean, Zoro's using him as a sword now, so it almost certainly counts. But is Oda a hack for having Zoro save Straw Hats twice now by falling through the ceiling or smashing up through it? Or is it just proving that he had it planned all along?
Well, I guess I'm going to have to maybe say I'm feeling a light hackishness here.
Yeah.
But it's not even just for the reason you mentioned, but also for the fact that it would appear, as far as we could tell, that what leads into this ceiling collapse that then brings this 2v2 into reality appears to be just due to the fact that Kaku's zone type giraffe transformation, it's like the size of his giraffe form is so great that it then leads to a fracturing of the ceiling. Like, I don't know if we see the combat with them and the sword combat taking place prior to his transformation. It seems like the transformation is the catalyst that leads to the cracking and the falling of the ceiling that brings them all together. So if the mass of Kaku's giraffe form was enough to do this, then why is it not the case that him still coming through the ceiling in his full giraffe form, plus Zoro, plus like fucking tons of stone, and also these guys are there already, all of that coming down and having the force of the collapse, why is that not doing any collapsing?
Was it because Kaku, he was up in the air slashing down at Zoro, maybe it weakened the floor?
I mean, that could be...
That's probably the closest excuse we could have for why the wolf room is so reinforced on the floor as opposed to the study.
I just thought that was a little... I'm not sure, but if I was going to say Yeah, maybe, I'm sure there's a very good reason. There's another good reason why it gets the entire building cut in half, starts sliding, and then just stops for some reason. Hey, you know what? It's still a great. Everything's good. Okay, I'm not hating
Well,
on it.
not everything's good. I mean, again, Usopp gets distracted and misses his sniper skill. Is the one thing he's good at. He fucks up and gets handcuffed to Zoro, causing a lot of trouble for Chopper, because now Chopper has to go on a mission to find the key to unlock them, just so they could fight these two guys to hopefully get the key to save fucking Robin. And then Chopper's being attacked by a guy who doesn't even have a key, because Nami, while getting killed by, I forgot his name. Fuck it. That guy has a weird name, the Yo-Yoi guy.
Kumadori.
Yeah, Kumadori. Yeah. And Nami manages to steal the key off him anyway while getting raped by his hair. So, like, Chopper's stuck in a fight with a guy who doesn't even have a key. Poor Chopper gets pushed to the brink and almost has to, I guess, almost commits a conscious suicide. But before that, we have some fun in the kitchen. Because homeboy Frankie, his weakness, he can't really fight well if he doesn't have his supply of cola. And homeboy Chopper's going to fuck it up and throw him vegetable juice and V8 and all this stuff. And we see the adverse effects it has on Frankie.
You know, I have to say, with Chopper was kind of playing around. I mean,
yeah.
This the events. I say that because the panel, after he once again serves him the incorrect beverage, he serves him the tea, and Chopper is like looking on like in a scientific research sort of like trance, like he's got stars in his eyes, like. And Frankie specifically says something along the lines of like, "Oh, don't give me that. You want to know what the next drink does? Look," or something along those lines. So it's sort of like the events that end up playing out where Chopper is at such a has such problems and needs to go to such lengths. I mean, maybe he was being a little bit childish and immature to be kind of goofing off in a prime time where maybe Frankie could have helped, handle business a little better if he'd gotten what he needed a little faster. Playing around.
The logic is a little weird of, I have Kumadori locked in this freezer, so when I need to grab a cola to throw to Frankie, I can only open it very briefly and just like grab something and throw it to him. But like, if you're briefly opening this freezer over and over again, why is Kumadori just allowing all of this? Like, come on, man. You're just sitting at the back of the freezer watching this happen?
Kind of like, when you're trying to open or close the door and a cat's trying to get through, you kind of just like nudge it, just very kind of, not even nudge, but just like place your leg or whatever, like in the opening to kind of try and, discourage it. So maybe Chopper, but yeah, with his hair and everything kind of being such a point of his abilities, yeah, you'd think that some hair strands could get out and start doing something. But
yeah,
I guess we kind of see that he has a desire to do his life regain power or whatever it is with the contents of the fridge. So maybe
he's busy eating anyway.
Getting his munch on, yeah.
Yeah, very Luffy pilled. Sanji, we get a declaration from Sanji that this is what we've been waiting for to justify all the poor writing in the past, okay? Sanji says, I will never kick a woman. Even if it kills me, I won't kick a woman. It was drummed into me as a kid. And then we think back to, pointing the gun at Nico Robin. Okay, I guess technically he didn't kick her. He's just threatening her with violence. It is what it is. But am I wrong here? In this very fight with Khalifa, I believe even in the same chapter that he says, I will never kick a woman, we see illustrations of both of their legs locked in leg combat. Am I to believe him blocking her kicks with his leg is not the same as kicking a woman?
Yeah, I mean,
And she's like avoiding his attacks. I feel like he's very consciously trying to kick her at some points in this fight.
Yeah, I guess, the way that it's written and drawn, it could be seen as defensive. Because I think there's a point to be made there that you could see like emotion of a limb, but the idea is that it's, being utilized still for defensive purposes, like just sort of a damage control measure. And then doesn't she, if I'm not mistaken, it looked like she kicks him in the balls, which is, really, I mean, if there's any time that you should be, defending yourself very severely against a woman, I mean, I think that's got to be the best time to be employing some combative measures. But now that I just double paged over it again here, and it looks like there's an aerial strike of his where he's up in the air and his leg is coming down very forcefully over her. Maybe Sanji's completely full of shit.
Do you see this? So I wonder, is this a problem that needs to be overcome, or is the idea that this is a character who, in this regard, is not dynamic? He's static, and that's why it's a good thing. He will stay true to his core beliefs no matter what. Or do you think in the future it would be better if Sanji, for the sake of helping save his crew, does kick a woman? Is this character's arc to become a better man learning to attack women, Iggy?
Well, I would phrase it more that he should not have any like hang-ups of sorts, like kind of how where Usopp was. He has a raging insecurity about something that happens, and he's got it, and he's like, oh, I don't feel as up to par with the rest of the crew, and he needs to figure out how to move past that. I think Sanji perhaps should figure out maybe he's got a different kind of ability. It doesn't necessarily need to be maybe him removing this block mentally that he can't use physical strength to overcome a female opponent. Maybe he's got another avenue that he could utilize. Maybe the way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Maybe he's a master chef. Maybe he could have something to do with that might woo the ladies, maybe neutralize threats. So maybe he should play to his strengths in the same way that Usopp maybe was playing a little more to his strengths here throughout the previous volumes.
Yeah, if Usopp can convert Oimo and Kashi to the good guy's side, we see Sanji here. Maybe he needs to overcome his simpish behavior, because Khalifa doesn't even defeat him in combat at the beginning. He's just distracted by her beauty and drinking tea. Maybe if he overcomes that instead of overcoming the need to kick women, and can turn the tables and, give them the tea, make the woman fall for him instead of vice versa, become the ultimate Mr. Prince instead of Mr. Simp. That might be a better direction for the character than learning, hey, to protect my friends, I will kick women in the face. It would be nice, but we'll see if maybe he'll slip into the opposite direction and become the ultimate simp. And then just be a liability for the crew.
It's everything in life, folks. Listen, this is even greater than just One Piece, but really, it's mind over matter, okay? I'm gonna tell you like that. So I think even if he could convince himself, like, we just had the new King of the Hill launch date was confirmed. I think it's August 4th. In the original series, Bobby Hill, he needs to defend himself. And he takes a course and he says, that's my purse, I don't know you, and he's ready to strike, okay? Maybe Sanji, he needs something in his mind that's going to help him. Maybe it's a chant, a mantra, some sort of focusing of some kind that's going to help him manipulate his perception of certain things, and maybe that's going to help him overcome the mental block also. So there's many avenues, many possibilities, and I do have faith that Sanji's going to be able to figure something out, because anytime you're, I'd rather die than... maybe there's certain codes of conduct, certain codes of honor, but I mean, this would not be one of them for me. Sometimes you gotta do the old Sean Connery, if you know what I'm saying.
Do you foresee future problems, down the line in the story where Sanji's refusal to attack a woman does lead to, like, horrible consequences for the crew?
I guess the consequences might not be so great now, but I mean, like, it's pretty serious. And
he's kind of out of commission. He got all soaped up.
Yeah. And he even makes the distinction as he's ready to break out of his simp trance and start engaging in combat that Robin, it's like his love of Robin overcomes his temporary lusting trance to say, okay, technically it's kind of simping, but it's still kind of sticking to the script. So maybe the consequences here are pretty dire. He's willing to die for it, willing to die rather than, come to his full power level versus a woman. But so I'd like to think this would be dire enough to stimulate a change in his behavior. But if it's not, if it needs to be more dire and greater, I mean,
I think monogamy might be the solution. If Nami or Robin take one for the team and say, Sanji, I'm yours, I don't think his heart would be in it to simp for every random woman he meets if he is actually in a relationship with one of his beloved. So, Nami, if you take away Sanji's virginity, is he going to be so horny all the time? Huh? Think about that one. That's how you cure inceldom, ladies. Just go fuck that greasy fat guy. No more issues in the world. Let's talk about Frankie versus Fukuro, because it's just two big, burly bruisers beating the shit out of each other, punching each other brutally in the face with like horrible blood popping out. Any thoughts on this fight that goes over the waterfall?
I liked the trash talk. It was pretty humorous to me. It's like, physically speaking, these are like polar opposites. You have Frankie in his cyborg mode. You wouldn't think that he would have such a personality similarities here with like the gossiping zipper mouth balloon man. But they like to talk trash, and they're both standing strong and firm. They're not pulling out any of these tricks like these devil fruits. Now, Fukuro does get a little bit tricky towards the next part of the fight, but to start off with, I mean, they're just sitting here just eating punches. It reminds me of the power slap competitions. They're just sitting there and just beating the living shit out of each other while talking trash.
Another part that made me laugh in the fight was Frankie, he's going to use an attack called tracking cannonballs, but really it's just he has to literally chase the guy down on foot while shooting at him. That's the tracking cannonball. And then Frankie, he's a big musclehead bruiser as a fighter, but he also uses his scientific intellect to win the day. When they go over the waterfall, he grabs on to Fukuro, and they're going back to shore. And Fukuro starts spinning out of control to smash Frankie into the Tower of Law and kill him. And he has to use his scientific mind to shoot off something in a certain velocity and certain degree of direction to stop the rotation so that he's just, in midair, not moving, and then he wins. So I like that. It's like Tony Stark intellect mixed with like Bane just being able to beat the shit out of people. That's Frankie. I loved it. And then Chopper obliterates him immediately. And that's a terrifying panel when Chopper comes out. He's holding the dude by the hair, and Frankie's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, it is one of those things where, the whole Chopper transformation and just the darkness around like his character design, like just the lifeless, like the spirit of Chopper as we know it is not inhabiting. This is a colossus that is purely thriving on total destruction, and I can just like estimate the anime soundtrack for this transformation, and following scenes in my mind is just like this dun 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 dun. Hey, Chopper, what's got into you there, man? Well, you look a little different. And then all of a sudden he's just like blown up.
No, he didn't even know it was Chopper. He said, like, "What the fuck is that thing?" And then it just smashes him into a crater in the ground. Did we get into this? What are your predictions of, like, the future of Monster Chopper? What can they do to transform him back? And his power level is so high now that his enemy was killed in, like, 2 hits. Is he going to interfere in the other fights? Is he going to attack Usopp and Zoro? Any predictions, Aggie?
Well, I do have predictions, actually, yes. I think it's certainly possible that he's going to involve himself in other fights that are going on in the tower. But my overall arcing prediction is going to be that, considering that we come to the end of this volume anticipating the Buster Call being made, coming to Enies Lobby, some incredible, great, destructive military might that is going to reduce all persons to ash. Spondum does not even care. He is happy to say, yeah, who cares? They're all going to be killed. I don't care at all. Well, what could possibly be strong and terrifying enough, so unexpectedly destructive, that could go against the military might? Well, we already made an analogy to this monster form at the very beginning here, King Kong. What happens in King Kong? He's up on top of the tower. There's all kinds of helicopters. Obviously, we don't have helicopters in One Piece, but the military might is being all focused on this great and powerful monster with King Kong. I'm feeling like Chopper Kong versus the Navy military, whilst I don't know if the Straw Hats are going to be so involved with that. Obviously, we have Luffy beginning his combat with Rom Lucci at the end of this volume here, so I don't know if we're going to have any backup as far as that's concerned, of other Straw Hats coming to follow his lead in saving Robin. But I mean, they kind of need to, because we need that key. So hopefully that's we have. I think Nami is, as I recall, the most. Well, she got the key from Kumadori, but
I think it was a useless key, or at least they got to collect all of them to take him to Robin anyway. So not really helping him yet. Doesn't unlock this up.
The secretary, who I keep calling Shakira, even though that's not her name. Khalifa, yeah. Goodbye, because, listen, it's American culture. When I think about women named Khalifa, there's a one, and, so my brain goes away from it. Anyway.
That's sexual harassment, Aggie.
Exactly.
Should we talk about Nami versus Khalifa briefly? Because is this out of character? Is this Oda being too cute for a joke? You might know what I'm talking about. Nami has a quote when he sees sexy Khalifa. Or she sees Khalifa, she says, "Wow, so sexy. I wish I had a secretary like that. Cripes, I'm talking like a dirty old man." Bi-curious Nami? Is she a lesbian this whole time? She's taking a bath with Vivi, flashing her tits to people?
Nope. I mean, it's supposed to be like the cleaning power of it also like cleans away your drive and motivation to fight, which then leads to like collapse. So we can't say that this is Nami having been impacted by Khalifa's devil fruit, because it'd be quite the opposite. She'd be like the very less inclined to have dirty thoughts. She'd be having all clean thoughts, or thinking nothing at all because her thoughts have been wiped away.
Well, if it's supposed to wash away her drive to fight, maybe that is her being influenced. Like, oh, she's attractive. I don't want to fight that beautiful woman. I wish she was, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that would probably track, and maybe that Sanji might have been impacted a little bit by that to begin with, but I don't think so right off the bat, because it's just in his nature to have reacted the way that he did immediately. But I did find it pretty funny that it's just strange. Maybe Nami, she's able to use her baton to conjure this lightning strike. I'm thinking, okay, well, this makes sense, because we see Khalifa basically get out of a bath. She should be very conductive. It's moist. It is what it is. And then something, okay, yeah, that makes sense. This is a perfect thing. We're going to be able to have this lightning strike. It's going to fry her to bits. We're moving on. No, she, as part of her bubble fruit, she can be like Kirby in Super Smash Bros. When he turns into a rock, but she's turning into a non-conductive soap bar, which I thought was very interesting. Like the zone type giraffe fruit, okay, all right, that's not so unusual for what we've seen in up to this point, but the bubble fruit, yeah.
Does that throw off the theming here? Because Zoro even says, "What is this, a zoo?" We've got Lucci as some sort of jaguar, leopard. I still don't remember from last week. Giraffe, wolf. Why is it all animals in CP9 and then she's soap?
Well, I don't want to say it was an excuse to, draw her very shapely figure in a bubble bath for, her combat scene, but hey, you know what?
Yeah, is Oda sexist? The one woman fighter is like, her powers, I get naked and take a bath and look sexy as hell. Whatever. I appreciate it. I'm not going to complain. I loved those scenes, and I was not attracted to Khalifa at first. I'm not into glasses, but goddamn, this volume might be top tier waifu material. Khalifa's pretty hot.
Well, she did turn into the soap sheep at one point, which I thought was pretty funny. It's kind of had like a good little humor break in there. But there could be something maybe more to be extrapolated here because historically speaking, it has been, throughout the ages that men have that physical strength, and women, they're more about a mental combat is more what they're suited to to utilize their abilities to the max. So her having this bubble power that can, have that mental impact that could defeat you, and then she still has the physical capability. They're also with the 6 strengths that all the CP9 people have. So, but maybe for her to utilize a more mental forward combat ability with her Devil Fruit is actually in line in that way.
During this fight, Spandam accidentally hits the nuclear button and then accidentally hits the broadcast to everybody on the island button, and they hear this very embarrassing broadcast letting them know that they're about to be decimated to ash. And Khalifa says, "You poor things, it seems hopeless, doesn't it?" And Nami, great quote, she says, "We're quite used to situations like this." And I'm like, son of a bitch, you're fucking right, you are. It might seem hopeless beyond belief, but hey, Alabasta, they were in that situation, Skypiea. You're right. We should have faith in Luffy and faith in the Straw Hats. Great Nami moment. Anything else from the Spandam broadcast scene, Iggy?
Well, I really enjoy, Spandam, is very unlikable. So anything that provokes his very often used, like, shocked expression is enjoyable to me. So we talked about how Luffy used Gear 3. He was sort of put onto the right path by Chimney and my good friend Cat Rabbit, whose name
Ganbei?
Ganbei, yeah. So Chimney and Ganbei, they get him on the right path. And his initial breakdown of the first door is sort of like they think, oh, maybe we just heard something. But, Luffy is able to catch up once again, blow through the doors, and give Spandam another good freak out, which then leads to him and Rob Lucci having their face off. It was a very satisfying overall, I would say. We still have a lot going on that wasn't resolved and concluded by the end of the volume. We have a lot of things that are in progress, but just to sort of get the people who are on Enies Lobby who haven't been right here in the most the utmost depths of the battles that are going on. People who weren't in the tower, people who weren't right there and getting the gist of it all, just the Marines and the other inhabitants. Everybody's getting put on the same page now due to Spandam's arrogance, and even if it might be a bit stereotypical, perhaps, that something like this would happen, it was still very satisfying for that to occur before the end of the volume. I think that it made me more satisfied going into the coming volume, which I haven't yet, but it's set me up to be in a better headspace than if we didn't have that sort of resolution on the horizon.
But did all of our allies get defeated off screen? Because during this broadcast, we cut back to them and all the Paulie and all the Frankie family. They're all tied up and defeated. Oimo and Kashi, the giants, are tied up and defeated. And then when the broadcast comes that, the nukes are coming for this island, the Marines abandon the prisoners, just leave them tied up to be slaughtered and destroyed. That's pretty fucked up, but I guess prisoners of war, sometimes Marines don't want to follow protocol. I don't know. But what'd you think of everybody being defeated off screen and then abandoned to die? What went wrong? We had the giants on our side.
That's true. I guess we don't know maybe the scale of Marines. There might have been further reinforcements that were called and landing, and everybody can only really handle so much. Everybody kind of has their the extent of which they're capable, so they might have gotten overwhelmed with just too many continuously supplementing forces on the side of the Marines.
Homeboy Karate Frog just could not hold him off anymore. Those righteous jurors.
And also, then I think it sets up, I would imagine, because we saw Frankie get the business end from Monster Chomper, but if we were in the next volume, if he kind of starts getting himself dusted up and everything, I think that he would be the right person out of everybody that was in combat in this volume to sort of start going and catching up with the abandoned friends who were all tied up and start getting them all free and start preparing for the Buster Call or whatever it might be to come. So I think maybe that was a calculated decision on Oda's part.
Aggie, any final predictions for what is to come in Volume 43 and beyond before we get out of here?
Well, I'm thinking the King Kong Chopper is going to be possibly I don't want to say distraction, but I think he's going to be having a pivotal combativeness with the incoming Navy fleets. That's a prediction. I think that Luffy's going to tap into his new power to be able to defeat Rob Lucci. Maybe we get Khalifa handled. Her power, I think, is enough to overcome. I think they could handle her, get Usopp and Zoro back, not handcuffed again. I think that they're going to start getting together to at least have some of the Straw Hats following down into the underground passage, because I don't know if they're going to need to bring Luffy the key and everything. So I'm seeing them kind of coming up the back. I could see maybe like Nami or somebody still trying to get Chopper to maybe like revert, especially if the Buster Call is converging and trying to do some sort of diplomacy there. Those are all elements that I'm seeing as likely to be coming up here. What I can say is I was definitely very wrong in how many volumes I thought Water 7 was going to be. So I might be kind of striking out once again here, but I'm just kind of like hypothesizing, and I'm thinking that those are likely elements to be put in some capacity in the upcoming volume.
All right, folks. Stay tuned. Next week, we'll be back with more Enies Lobby. Become a member of the channel if you want to get episodes early and exclusive bonus episodes that will never be released publicly. Maybe in the next week or two, we'll do the Skypiea tier list. Aggie, dare I say, one peace, people.